Ladies, gentlemen, everybody, it is my huge pleasure to welcome you all to the Publisher Podcast Awards 2021. I'm co-founder of Media Voices, Chris Sutcliffe, and I'm going to be your live host for these digital awards. As you'll hear from my Media Voices co-hosts, Esther and Peter, in just a moment, we're firm believers in the power of the podcast. This year, they provided a sense of connection, of community, and of clarity as we've all soldiered through the impacts of coronavirus. While we would love to shake your hands in person, this year has provided us at least with the opportunity to experiment with these awards. So we've trialed a pay what you want scheme for these virtual tickets and have been absolutely delighted by how many of you have chosen to support these awards celebration of the podcast industry. And the experiment does continue tonight with these live awards, as you can probably tell by the fact that I forgot to maximize myself. And if you're among the lucky winners, I'm going to be promoting you to a participant in the webinar so that you can share your thanks to your team, parent organization, your microphones, the pets that have stayed out of your way, absolutely everybody. So please do look out for me pulling you out of the audience as we go. And do remember that you can turn your microphone and camera on if you so choose. So to help me out with that, while I do have a list of the winners' names here, it would really, really help if you could rename your Zoom account to your actual name if it isn't that already. And while we have tested, as you'll know, things can go wrong with a virtual event. So if you have any connection issues or lag, please do wait a minute and see if it evens out, as it often does. Otherwise, ping me a private message in the chat and I'll see what we can do as we go along. And as we go, do feel free to follow along at PubPodAwards on Twitter or using the hashtag PubPodAwards, and visit publisherpodcastawards.com to view the digital program for the running order. After the final award, which is that of Publisher Podcast Awards 21 Podcast of the Year, we're going to be sending around a Zoom link for those of you who wish to join us for a low-key after party and some networking. So please do keep an eye on your email and the chat for that link. But for now, I'm going to hand you across to my Media Voices co-hosts, Esther and Peter, who are going to explain a little bit about who we are, why we do these awards, and why we think this last year has been particularly special.
Hello everyone, I'm Peter Houston. I have to say this is very, very strange. I'm talking to an audience that I don't really know if they're there or not, like Schrodinger's audience. But assuming that you all have shown up, welcome to our first virtual awards ceremony. And for those of you that only know us through the Publisher Podcast Awards, we thought it might be nice to give you a little context. Esther, Chris and I co-host the Media Voices podcast. We have done for about 5 years. Over that time, we've released about 180 episodes, discussed some of the biggest media stories to hit, from fake news to digital subscriptions, and some smaller, lesser known stories. We always look for an angle that will help our friends and colleagues in the publishing markets make better bets than maybe they would make without us. And to that end, we interview someone smart every episode. We give them a chance to talk to our audience, how they are succeeding, maybe sometimes how they're bouncing back. In our 5 years, we've been lucky enough to talk to people from some of the biggest platforms and the biggest publishers, but also some incredibly cool indie projects. Take a look at our episode archive on voices.media and see the range of people we've had the privilege of interviewing. The one thing they all have in common is a story to tell about the work that they do in media. It's from that starting point that we decided to launch the Publisher Podcast Awards in 2019. Our March 2020 award ceremony was actually one of the last media events before the world changed for us all. And the thinking behind the Publisher Podcast Awards is exactly the same as the thinking behind the podcast. To find the best examples we can find of publishers' podcasting success, to share it with the industry. And of course, we want to celebrate that success. This time online, but hopefully next time in the real world with a drink and a dance. Later we'll let you know about how we plan to make next year's awards our biggest and best. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Esther, who's going to say a few words about the podcasting market that we all find ourselves in.
Hello to you all from my living room to yours. I'm Esther Thorpe and I'm 1/3 of the Media Voices team. When we were standing on stage in London last year, just days away from a lockdown, we had no idea how quickly the world was about to change. And one thing I want to start by saying is a big well done to all of you. The past 12 months could easily have devastated podcasting. But actually, publishers like you have not just continued your efforts, but you've actually carved out so many new opportunities with podcast launches, pivots and more. Now these awards may be virtual, there's no mac and cheese bowls to fight over, there's no networking, there's no applause that you can hear, but that doesn't make winning an award this year any less of an achievement. And in fact, the stories we've read in the entries of spinning up podcasts with teams spread remotely, recording under duvets, and of course scrambling for the last good podcast mics available on Amazon have highlighted just how brilliantly you've all risen to the challenge. To be able to put podcasts out of the quality we've seen on our shortlist while spread around the world and working in some really challenging conditions is really something to celebrate. So whether you win an award today or not, please do take a moment to reflect on how much you've achieved in the past year and how well you've done to be shortlisted alongside some of the best publishers in the world. But before we get on to revealing the winners, what impact has COVID had on podcasting and its future? When the world first shut down in March last year, most podcasts saw a marked drop in listeners, largely because of the loss of the commute and people being glued to the news. Now, fortunately, this didn't last long. By April, audiences had started to reclaim their time for podcast listening, shifting from early morning and evening spikes to more consistent listening throughout the day. And podcasting picked up new fans as well. With little else to do, people who'd never tried podcasts before took the opportunity to listen when out for their daily state-sanctioned walk. And by autumn last year, not only had the declines been completely reversed, but weekly podcast consumers were listening to podcasts half an hour more per week than they had done before the pandemic. And now, the weekly podcast audience has doubled since 2017 and exceeds the percentage of the population who say they use Twitter, TikTok or Snapchat. And of course, thanks to the ongoing audio wars between Spotify, Apple and Amazon, listening and discovery is easier than ever. Podcasters have risen to the challenge. Apple now has over 2 million podcasts in its library, but it's not time to worry about podcast overload just yet. Analysis has shown that a quarter of those have only ever produced one episode, and almost half have 3 or fewer episodes. So if you're listening today with more than 10 episodes to your name, congratulations, you're in the top third of all podcasts. And all of this has led to a growing interest in monetization. Podcast ad revenue is expected to grow to $1.13 billion this year, which is a huge number, but it's far behind where it could or should be, given how engaged listeners are. We've recognised the growing importance of revenue this year with our new category for Best Commercial Strategy, which has seen some really strong entries. So before we get underway, I just want to leave you with this final thought. In a year which most other forms of media consumption has been turned upside down, podcasting has not just remained resilient, but thrived. The future for podcasting looks brighter than ever, and Chris, Peter and I are thrilled to be able to celebrate all your great work with you.
Before we get started, we've just got some thank yous. First, thank you to our amazing sponsors. This year has been very different from last year, and we're so grateful that our sponsors have supported us in this virtual awards ceremony. Thanks to our silver sponsors, Audion, Podcast Radio, Pod Install, and to our bronze sponsor, Audrey. Thank you all so much for helping us make this happen tonight.
And aside from our sponsors, there's another group of people that we just couldn't do these awards without, and that's our judges. We've had 45 of them join us this year from all around the world and from all sorts of roles across the media industry. I won't read out their names here as we'll be here quite a while, but you can see the full list on our website or in the back of your programmes. And we at Media Voices want to offer them a big thank you for giving us their time and ears to listen and judge so many fantastic entries.
So, as Esther said, we could not have done this without the judges. You can see all of their names on the website, and I do suggest that you go and check it out, because really the caliber of those judges speaks to the quality of every single one of the entries that we've had. Now on to the actual awards themselves, and we're going to run through this in 2 separate sections. The first is around content, so that's things like B2B, all the way down to Best Technology Podcast. And then the second half is what we think of as our strategic awards, which are Best Launch, Podcast Hero of the Year, Publisher Podcast of the Year, and a couple of others. So what we're going to do is we're going to spin through the content awards first. I'm going to play a short video announcing the shortlist, so please do give every single one of them a big hand. I trust that you'll all be doing that, even though I can't hear you. We'll then hear judges' comments before I'll then announce the winner. And if you are that lucky winner, I'll pull you out of the crowd so you can do a quick 30-second speech before we move on to the next category. So without further ado, we're going to begin with our very first category of the day, which is Best B2B Podcast. Best of luck to everybody who's shortlisted. Your nominees for Best B2B Podcast are The Media Navigators from the World Media Group, Air Finance Journal Week in Review from Euromoney PLC, the Journalism.co.uk podcast from Journalism.co.uk, the Global Franchise Podcast from Global Franchise DC Thompson Media, Energy Voice Out Loud from Energy Voice DC Thompson Media, The Product Experience from Mind the Product, Engineering Matters from Reby Media, The Glossy Podcast from Digiday Media, and the IT Pro Podcast from Dennis Publishing.
This podcast stands apart for me because of the production value. It isn't just a question of the audio quality, which, let's face it, when we're talking about podcasts, I think everyone wants good audio quality. This one it drew from an incredibly wide array of sources that were really seamlessly edited together in a way that created a true narrative. It's something you see in the big commercial podcasts, but you don't necessarily see in this category. And I was impressed to see it here and done so well.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner of Best B2B Podcast is Engineering Matters by Reby Media. Congratulations. Fantastic. And I do think that we have Bernadette with us. Bernadette, how are you doing?
Hello. Thank you very much. We're delighted.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. How does it feel to have won the Best B2B Podcast?
Brilliant. Engineering Matters is a really small team. We work for Reby Media, and because we're a small team, everyone works really, really hard. And I'm so pleased that the judges recognised the narrative storytelling we use. Every episode is a documentary. So there's so much editing, there's so many interviews, there's so much work that goes into every episode every week. So thank you to the whole team. And thank you to all of our sponsors, because we couldn't do it without them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And hopefully you'll stick around, because I know you're up for a couple more awards throughout the course of the evening as well.
Yes. Oh, and well done to everybody that was shortlisted. We were shortlisted last year and we didn't win, but we did listen to all the feedback from the judges, and it really helped us improve our quality. So to everybody that was shortlisted, do listen to that feedback.
Well, thank you for doing my job for me. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we're now moving on to our next category. Before we do, I forgot to mention earlier that your trophies are going to be winging their way to you over the course of the next couple of weeks. So please do look out for them in the post. I know things are a little bit upended at the moment, but yeah, they'll be with you very shortly. Moving on now to our next category, which is hopefully specific to this year, which is the Best Coronavirus Podcast. Moving on to, surprisingly, one of our favorite categories, the Best Coronavirus Podcast. And we have Alone Together, a coronavirus podcast from Laudable, Care Home Management Magazine podcast from S&A Publishing, The Big Miss You from The Big Issue, The Impacts from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime, Coronavirus the Latest from The Telegraph, Engineering Matters from Reby Media, and The Nature Podcast from Springer Nature. I'm going to hand you over to one of our judges who will tell you exactly why the winner deserved to win.
Philip Graham said that journalism is the first rough draft of history, and I really felt this when I was listening to the entries for this category. It was beautiful. They were all amazing. I learned from all of them. It's been a tough time for everyone. We were all being affected, and this category showed the best of us. You know, it showed expertise, it showed human endeavour, it showed community. The winner of this category, which I know I'm not allowed to say, flexed all of these things. Endeavour, definitely, expertise, hope, connection. It was wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner is the Nature Podcast from Springer Nature. Congratulations. Fantastic. Many congratulations to the entire team. And I know that we have Benjamin with us right now.
Yes, hi. Wow, this is an incredible honour. Thank you so much to the judges and to everyone who was on the shortlist. I had to listen to all of them, and they were incredible. So just being part of this group is really, really something. There's a few people to thank. My co-hosts, Noah Baker and Amy Maxman, who couldn't be with us today. I mean, without them, we couldn't make this show. And also, you know, all the scientists who took the time to answer our calls, you know, when they were busy, you know, trying to build ventilators or trying to develop vaccines or just trying to figure out what on earth was going on. And the fact that they, you know, would pick up the phone and tell us about it really is amazing. And of course, you know, this really isn't that important in terms of all that's going on in the world, but obviously, you know, I'd like to say thank you to all the amazing medical professionals and staff and volunteers and everyone else who really, you know, thanks to every single one of those, really. But also thank you to you for this wonderful award.
No, of course, and thank you to you for dressing up. It's very much appreciated. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Benjamin. Hopefully you stick around for the rest of the evening. Great, fantastic. Well, we are now moving on to another incredibly hotly contested category. I know that everybody who's listening will almost have a stake in this just by dint of exactly what it is. So we're moving on now to our Best Entertainment Podcast category. Moving on to Best Entertainment Podcast, always one of the most fun ones to judge. And we have Author in Your Classroom from DC Thompson Media, Biscuits and Jam from the Meredith Corporation, The Penguin Podcast from Penguin Random House, Beetle City from Liverpool Echo and Reach PLC, and the Pathfinders Podcast from 99% Lifestyle. Take it away, Judge.
There were some really excellent shows contending for the Best Entertainment Podcast Award, but for me there was one clear winner. It was a really fascinating and lively conversation with an author who has been on the interview circuit a fair bit, but the interviewer had clearly done their prep, but absolutely confident enough just to let the conversation go where it went, which was to some unexpected places. It flowed really spontaneously. There were some interesting questions and laughter too. And all of that absolutely brought out the best in the guest, who was clearly having a ball and enjoying the experience. The audio quality also was top notch. So this podcast was a brilliant listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner of the Best Entertainment Podcast category is The Penguin Podcast from Penguin Random House. Many congratulations. So congratulations to the Penguin Random House team. I think we have Indira with us who will be able to share a couple of words, a couple of pieces of advice.
Hello, thank you so much. I wasn't expecting this at all, so this is super exciting. And again, congrats to everyone else who was shortlisted too. We had a podcast from our company that was shortlisted last time but didn't win, and similarly the feedback was kind of amazing and really helps push us on to improve all the time. So yeah, this is super great. Thank you.
Of course, and it's quite a small team as well, from what I understand.
Yes, exactly. There's only a couple of us who work on it, and as I'm sure everyone else here found, transitioning to doing everything online last year was a very strange time, but the team at the time who were working on it managed brilliantly, and it's really gone from strength to strength over that time, finding new listeners along the way.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking part this evening, and thank you for sharing some of those pearls of wisdom.
Thank you. Bye.
Fantastic. And moving on now to a category which I know that everybody who got one of our special boxes sent through the post will appreciate. It's the Best Food and Drink Podcast. I'm drinking some of the Prosecco right now, so if things get a little bit sloppy later, that will be why. But yes, please do put your hands together for everybody involved in the shortlist for the Best Food and Drink category. Best Food and Drink Podcast is up next. Always a hard one to judge because it just makes you hungry. And your competitors are Olive Magazine Podcast from Immediate Media, The Food Programme from BBC Radio 4, and Scran from JPI Media and Laudable.
Hello again. I just had time for a quick change, a wee haircut. The winner of our Food and Drink category leverages our love of food and drink to encourage us to think about the bigger social and political issues, from climate change to public health and education. Our judges said the scope and creativity of this podcast are fantastic, and the quality is unparalleled. Impeccable storytelling, breathing life into exciting concepts with the broader societal landscape of food and drink. is imaginative and unique, pushes the boundaries with imagination and bravery. Back to you, Mr. Sutcliffe, to tell us who has won the food and drink category.
Thanks, Peter. The winner is the food programme from BBC Radio 4. Many congratulations to the team. Fantastic. Congratulations. And I think we have Lucy with us right now.
You do, yes. Thank you so much.
Of course, congratulations. How does it feel to have won Best Food and Drink among such strong competition?
Incredible. I mean, it was a really, really competitive category, and I'm extra shocked because I shouldn't have been here today. Our presenter, Sheila Dillon, should have been here to watch the awards, but unfortunately she's unwell. So on her behalf and on behalf of the other presenters and producers who've been so amazing during the past year and really risen to the challenge of making fascinating programs with really limited resources and capabilities. Just thank you very much, and well done to all of them and all of the finalists today.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for that. Hopefully you'll be sticking around for the rest of the evening as well. And you'll be enjoying some food and drink of your own.
Oh, definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And from one particularly pertinent category to another now, we're moving on to the Best Health and Wellbeing podcast, which I'm sure that everybody who has been, well, in the world over the past year will have been keeping one eye on every piece of health information that's been coming out, which is what makes this category so strong this year. Now, moving on to Best Health and Wellbeing podcast, more relevant this year than perhaps any other. We have Bump, Baby and Beyond from Emma's Diary, Mad World from The Telegraph, Going for Goal from Women's Health and Hearst UK, and the Echoes Menopod from Liverpool Echo and Laudable. I'm going to hand you over to your judge who'll tell you who's won and why.
I love this podcast because it isn't afraid or quiet. This is particularly important because for generations, women have been expected to be quiet about the menopause even when they were afraid. The best journalism brings light to that kind of darkness and changes the way people feel about themselves and the world around them. This podcast does that, bringing humour, facts and genuine warmth to a subject others have ignored. It was an absolute pleasure to listen to and join that community.
To Menopod from Liverpool Echo and Laudable for their victory in the Best Health and Wellbeing podcast category. As Laura mentioned, it was a fantastic entry and one that deserves every accolade it's received. And we should have Susan Lee with us, who'll be able to share a couple of pearls of wisdom from actually producing that podcast.
Apologies for that.
That's all right,
I'm on holiday in Cornwall with terribly ropey Wi-Fi and a stiff breeze blowing, and I have to say it's very, very unexpected to have won. So I was all of a dither when you said, "Oh my goodness, it's the Menopod." So I just want to say thank you so very much to the judges. Absolutely over the moon. I'd like to thank my co-host Dawn Collinson and also my fantastic producer Dan. I'm a field to me, and Dan and all the Laudable team have been super helpful and super supportive in bringing to life what really just started off as a chat around the kitchen table with a glass of wine between me and some friends.
Nice. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Hopefully we'll see you again very shortly, and certainly next year as well.
Excellent. Thanks for your patience with me. Take care.
Of course, yeah. Speak soon.
Bye. Bye-bye.
So as I mentioned, moving on now to another incredibly hard-fought category. This one is the Best Hobbies and Special Interests one. And we do have to say a special thank you to a sponsor ahead of this one, so please do watch this message first.
Hi, I'm Nikki from the International Magazine Centre. Find out about how we're supporting publishers at internationalmagazinecentre.com. We're delighted to sponsor the Best Hobbies and Special Interest podcast category at this year's Publisher Podcast Awards. We love the passion and knowledge of the hosts in this category, really bringing each of the topics alive for the listener. Congratulations to everyone shortlisted and to tonight's winner.
And your entries are Factor 2 from UK Climbing, Radio Astronomy from BBC Sky at Night magazine Immediate Media, Big Brains from University of Chicago News, The Bunkered Golf Podcast from Bunkered DC Thompson Media, The Dirt from Grow Your Own DC Thompson Media, The Week in Art from The Arts newspaper, Reasonably Speaking from the American Law Institute, and The Plodcast from BBC Countryfile magazine Immediate Media.
Hi, I'm James Hughes. I'm the President and CEO of FIP, one of the world's largest media membership and trade associations. I thought this podcast was a really deserved winner of the Hobbies and Special Interest category at this year's awards. The magazine format works really well for me. The stories were excellent in both production and presentation. And crucially, I thought it does exactly what it says on the tin, gives the listener a real inside view of the subject. The presenters and the guests are clearly experts in their subject, yet they manage to present issues in an accessible and entertaining way that really makes you want to listen. So congratulations to everyone involved. You're very worthy winners.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner for the Best Hobbies and Special Interest podcast category is The Week in Art from the Art newspaper. Congratulations. Amazing, congratulations. And I think we've got Ben Luke with us. Ben, if you're there, there you go, fantastic. Congratulations again on winning.
Hello, thank you very much. Wow, I'm completely shocked by this. I'm amazed. Thank you so much. Wow, I need to compose myself. And my mum and dad are never going to forgive me for beating Countryfile either. So astonished and delighted. It's a massive team that does this, actually, in terms of a small team that makes it, but a massive range of amazing experts, passionate people all about the art and about the world that the art is within. And so just thanks to everyone. And our core team, Amy Dawson, Julia Mahauska, David Clack, Henrietta Bentel and Daniela Hathaway work on it week after week, and our US team, brilliant people, every single one of them. So just thank you, everyone, and thanks to the judges and to the awards. Thank you. I'm overwhelmed. Cheers.
Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Hopefully we'll see you again over the course of the evening as well. Brilliant. Fantastic. Have a good evening. Accidentally nearly spotlighted you there, Ben, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen. We're moving on now to our Best Lifestyle podcast, which I suppose, we say this for every single one, but the fact is that over the last year, things have been so different. And it's been hard to really take time to think about your own lifestyle. So the fact that every single one of these podcasts has been shortlisted is itself testament to the quality. Moving on now to Best Lifestyle Podcast, which our judges told us was incredibly hard to pick a winner from due to the overall high quality of all the entries, which are We Are Family from Meredith Corporation, Real Fix from SWNS, Who Cares Wins with Lily Cole from Penguin Random House, Bump Baby and Beyond from Emma's Diary, The Dirt from Grow Your Own DC Thompson Media, and The Upgrade from Suitcase Media. Take it away, Judge.
This podcast was emotive, entertaining, and educational. That's the triumvirate of an award-winning podcast. The scope of it spanned far beyond its family category, and I couldn't wait to listen to the next episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner for Best Lifestyle Podcast is We Are Family from Meredith Corporation. Congratulations. Please join me in giving them a big round of applause. So a fantastic and very, very well-deserved win there. I think we have Julia Dennison with us right now. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled. I was totally surprised by this. I just had a blast. I feel like we were so excited to tell the story of all different kinds of families and how important it is to celebrate diversity of family life today. And I want to thank my co-host, Sean T. And Susie Armitage, our producer at Pod People, and Mel Inman and Amanda Wolf over here in Meredith. We just had such an awesome team. I had a blast doing it from my closet over here in Queens, New York. So yeah, this is a surprise. Thank you so much.
You are more than welcome, and it's testament to exactly how much the judges loved it as well, that I think they loved it. They enthused about it so much in their comments.
Oh, that's wonderful. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, thank you so much. I'll hopefully see you again and speak to you later.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're now moving on to our Best Limited Series. You know what? I host this one, so there's really no need for me to gush here about how much I actually really love this category this year. So we're moving on now to our Best Limited podcast. And again, we do have to say thank you to a sponsor ahead of time for making this possible.
Hello, this is Sarah from Pod Install, where we are helping publishers to rethink audio discovery. We're pleased to present the nominees for Best Limited Series this year. Congratulations to everyone involved for your very careful Very impactful and extremely engaging reporting. And congratulations to the winner.
Now onto something that was definitely one of my own personal favourite categories. I love the Best Limited Series category. And your entries are Crossfire from The Telegraph, In Machines We Trust from MIT Technology Review, The Anthill from The Conversation, Unfair from Digiday Media, Weekend Bigots from JPI Media and Laudable, Floodlines from The Atlantic, My Mother's Murder from Tortoise Media, The Brink from Liverpool Echo and Laudable, and Unfinished, Shoebury's Lost Boys from Argent. And because I'm the host, I'm lucky enough to have bagsied this category to myself to read out the judges' comments. So our judges said this was a beautifully told introduction which set this up as an engaging listen from the off, and the richly textured sound design brought life to the story. Our judges thought that they were captivating characters, an incredibly interesting story, a look back, and what happened after Katrina, with a great host and sound design. And more importantly than anything else, they said that they wanted to listen to more. So ladies and gentlemen, please do give a huge round of applause to the team behind Floodlines from The Atlantic. And we have Van with us from The Atlantic. Congratulations again.
Oh, thank you so much. We're really excited to be here, to be in such an amazing field. I think you know the field was just so great, and every show that was on this list was amazing. This was our very first limited series at The Atlantic, so the fact that we even have a show is exciting. The fact that people seem to have liked it was great. I want to make sure that I thank the whole team: Catherine Wells, Alvin Melleth, Scott Stossel, Kevin Townsend, Katie Reckdahl, David Herman, and all the folks who share their stories with us. We're excited, and I do hope that we will have more soon in the future.
Yeah, fingers crossed. This wasn't even my category, and I listened to every single one of the podcasts and loved it. So yeah, fingers crossed you do produce more.
Fingers crossed here too.
Great. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Next up is something that is even more important to publishers than it has ever been before, our Best Local and Communities podcast. As the eyes of media turns towards those hyper-local, those more niche audiences, this category proves that there is life to be had in catering to communities that really engage with a news brand or a magazine brand, or whichever publisher you happen to be. And so I'm going to begin now by launching the thing. Do the video. Please do remember that this is an incredibly hard fought category, as you'll be able to see by the sheer number of entries we had on the shortlist. Moving on now to a very popular category for 2021, Best Local and Community Podcast. Your entries are Liminal from Liverpool Echo and Laudable, Northern Goal from the Press and Journal and Evening Express, DC Thomson Media, The Courier Talking Football from The Courier, DC Thomson Media, Tour Teams One Street from The Evening Telegraph, DC Thomson Media, Talking Australia from Australian Geographic, The Door County Pulse Podcast from The Peninsula Pulse, The Edinburgh Briefing from JPI Media, Laudable, and The North in Numbers from the Manchester Evening News and Laudable. So please do take it away, Judge. Tell us who won.
Hi, I'm Laura Kelly, digital producer at The Big Issue. I was honoured to be a judge on the Best Local and Community Podcast. The winning entry is truly in the heart of their community. While it's not a topic that I would normally find at the top of my list, this podcast really captured me. It's full of energy as well as knowledge and personality. It's a celebration of passion, and it serves an underserved audience. It also builds on trust in the parent brand. This podcast is achieving impressive statistics, both in the number of listeners and also in the time that they spend with the podcast. It truly is a worthy winner. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner is Tour Teams One Street from the Evening Telegraph and DC Thomson Media. Many, many congratulations. And all being well, we should have Callum with us right now, who'll be able to share some pearls of wisdom about how they actually won the award.
Yeah, I can see I'm pure prepared for this one. Hearing the ladder in the background and all that. But no, do you know what? Like, we were nominated in the sport category as well, but I'm really particularly glad we won this category because that's what it's about. It's about the community and the people that we serve in Dundee and their two so passionate about both the football teams. You out and about in the street, or you go out to the games, and people come up and speak to you about the podcast. So it's great, man. It's really cool to have won and to be up against such a good category with a lot of other DC Thompson podcasts as well. So big shout out to Chris Finn, the head of podcasts, and the boys that have been on the podcast over the years. We've been doing it for 2 years, so it's nice to get some recognition from a great award like yourselves.
Well, fantastic. Thanks so much. And I suppose as well, the fact that people are coming up to you in the street and sort of talking about the podcast has got to be its own reward.
I think I've just got one of those faces when people come up. I wouldn't take it that way, but yeah, it's always nice, man. That's what it's all about. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, and do stick around for sport. It's coming up in just a little bit.
Yes.
Fantastic. So after that, we're moving on to another incredibly pertinent category for this year, which is the Best News Podcast. As you'd expect, this attracts entrants from some of the most high-profile news brands in the country, and it's really testament to, I suppose, how much our judges were looking for something that really stood out this year, that they managed to whittle it, the shortlist even, down to these 4. So please do give a big round of applause to every single one of these. We had an incredibly strong suite of entries for Best News Podcast this year, unsurprising considering quite how much news there has actually been over the past 12 months. So your entries are Planet Normal from The Telegraph, The Week Unwrapped from Dennis Publishing, The Stushy from DC Thompson Media, and World Review from The New Statesman.
I really enjoyed this podcast. The host is incredibly easy on the air and a great moderator. The panel and guests are informed but relatable, and the result is a captivating conversation which appeals to the news entertainment hybrid they identified as their niche. The quality of the audio was crystal clear, and the sound design was carried out with the same light touch as the topics discussed. In particular, I thought this podcast deserved to win the Best News Podcast Award because of the work the team has done to make the podcast profitable, including using paid advertising. Their weekly download figures are impressive and belie their more established standing in comparison with the other podcasts considered. It's this commercial approach, however, that I think is needed for podcasts to keep their place in a news brand's portfolio of products in what is becoming an increasingly crowded market. Well done.
Congratulations to The Week Unwrapped from Dennis Publishing, a very well-deserved victor in a very, very hard-fought category. And I believe we have Holden with us now, who will be able to share a couple of pieces of wisdom about how they actually won what was an incredibly hard-fought category.
Yes, thank you very much. And I have to say, I am, as all the paladins have been, very, very surprised and very pleased to have won. It's been a particular challenge actually this year for us, not only because of the technical issues of running a panel show which is meant to be about informal discussion over Zoom links and remote recordings, but also because the whole point of the podcast is we try and seek out stories that aren't being covered and stories that are off the main news agenda. And in a year that's just been so dominated by one story, it's been very difficult not to get drawn back into that. But thank you very much, and thank you particularly to our production team, Sarah Miles and Sophie King, who their hard work was noticed in that commendation there, and that they really have put a huge amount of effort in, and it often can go unremarked. So very pleased to see their recognition too.
Nice, fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that they get to see the sort of extended judges' comments as well, as will all the winners. So congratulations again. Thank you for joining this evening. Moving on now to, actually just one little piece of behind the scenes information, I suppose. If you do hear those big gaps in the thing, it's just because we wanted to give ourselves time so that I could actually get the guests in. So occasionally there'll be those little pauses. That's just a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for you there. So we're now moving on to something slightly news adjacent, which is the Best Political Podcast. Moving on now to the Best Political Podcast, and your entries are Public Sector Voices from the Public Sector Executive, the New European Podcast from Archant, the New Statesman Podcast from the New Statesman, the North Pole from Manchester Evening News and Laudable, and the Stoshi from DC Thompson Media.
This category was definitely hotly contested with strong competition from a number of different entrants. But after all of the points were tallied, we judges agreed that we'd definitely arrived at a very worthy winner. This podcast impressed us not only because of the quality of the debate and analysis on offer, but also because of the chemistry between the hosts, each of whom has something unique and different to bring to the equation. The format is solid, the information is clearly presented, and the podcast aligns itself very well with its parent brand. Politics, as we all know, is a pretty messy business, but this podcast brings some semblance of order to the house. We felt that it's a must listen for all political animals, regardless of their partisan preference. Congratulations from all of us to this very worthy winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner for this category is the New Statesman podcast. Fantastic. And we should have Emily with us who'll be able to, I suppose, talk about what it's like to have produced a political podcast over what has been an otherwise insane year.
Hi, everyone. I'm actually not, I'm here from the New Statesman, but I am from the World Review.
Fair enough.
We were honored to be shortlisted. Congratulations to my colleagues, to Stephen and to Alva and to Anush. They do such amazing work and inspiration to all of us at the New Statesman. Congratulations to their fellow entrants. It's true, and I think exactly what the announcer said. It's the banter that really makes them. And I would say also on their behalf, thank you to our former producer Nick Hilton and to our current producer Chris Stone. I should not speak on and on about this as it is not my podcast, but we appreciate the recognition for podcasting in general at the New Statesman and specifically for our flagship NS Pod.
Nice, fantastic. Well, our judges loved it, so please do pass that on.
Of course.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for stepping in on their behalf. And moving on now to another incredibly pertinent category this year, Best Science and Medical. As you'll see from the sheer quality of entries here, this is one that our judges actually had, an awful lot of difficulty picking a winner from. This year, our judges were blown away by the quality of entries for the Best Science and Medical podcast category. Your entries are All Things Photonics from Lauren Publishing, eLife Podcast from eLife Sciences Publications, Finger on the Pulse from the National Health Executive and Cognitive Publishing, Stereochemistry from the American Chemical Society, Curiosity Daily from Discovery Inc., New Scientist Weekly from New Scientist, Sharp Scratch from the British Medical Journal, and the Nature Podcast from Springer Nature.
Hi there. I just wanted to say congratulations to the winning podcast. I felt like it really stood out from its competitors for a number of reasons. For one, I think the enthusiasm of the hosts was really infectious. It got me interested in the subject matter that I'd never really heard about. I think that the brevity of the program makes it really accessible, something that you can listen to pretty easily on a day-to-day basis. And I think that its track record of having the show be produced for a number of years on virtually a daily basis, to me, shows a real investment in the product and a real belief in what they're doing. So congratulations. I think it was the clear winner, and I hope to see more from them in the future. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner is the Curiosity Daily Podcast from Discovery. There you go. We have Cody with us.
Wow. Yeah, I just got a huge adrenaline rush, and it might also be because I just finished an entire carafe of coffee here. Nice. Because of the time zone difference. But this is thrilling. I would imagine it was really difficult for judges because our podcast is Curiosity Daily is a little different. We will help you learn something new in just 10 to 15 minutes a day or 5 days a week. That is very different. And I thank the previous winners from the news and politics category because that makes our job easier, because our goal is to take a break from the daily news cycle and just help people learn about educational stuff. So I'm getting all caps Slack messages from my colleague, Ashley Hamer, our managing editor, who's very excited about this win. And our goal is just to be very inclusive globally and for people all around the world and of all ages, and make science communication very clear, which I think we've all seen in the last year is now more than ever very important. So thank you so much for this prestigious award.
Of course, yeah, absolutely paramount, like you said, to get that scientific information out there so accessibly, and it's something that our judges really appreciated. So thanks again, and please do pass on our congratulations to Ashley.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And please do stick around as well. I should have mentioned this at the start, actually, but every podcast that has been that has won so far is going to be up for our Publisher Podcast of the Year at the end. So if you have won one, please do stick around, because you may yet win that most coveted prize, is the Publisher Podcast of the Year award. So we're now moving on to our Best Sponsored Podcast category. For this category, our judges look for a real commercial approach to it, something that delivered value as much to a partner as it did to their audience. And luckily for us, it's also one of our sponsored categories. So I'm going to hand this across to one of our judges who'll explain why they were so excited to appear next to this amazing suite of podcasts.
Hi, I'm David from Audion, and we're thrilled tonight to be sponsoring the Best Sponsored Podcast category at the Publisher Podcast Awards. We love the sheer variety of brands now using podcasting to create engaging podcasts in this category. Find out on our website how you can use our platform to promote branded podcasts with guaranteed listens using our product True Listen. And on there you'll also find details of all our products, such as our programmatic stack and DCO solutions. Congratulations to everyone shortlisted within the Best Sponsored Podcast category, and especially to tonight's lucky winner.
Your entries for Best Sponsored Podcast are Energy Voice Out Loud from Energy Voice DC Thompson Media, the Olive Magazine podcast from Immediate Media, The Dirt Grow Your Own DC Thompson Media, Engineering Matters from Reby Media, Small Steps Big Impacts from Mail Metro Media, and The Upgrade from Suitcase Group.
What I really liked about this podcast was their approach to seeking sponsorship. So what they've done, rather than seeking one specific brand, they've developed a series of standalone episodes and built around particular themes, and then they've gone after different commercial sponsors to work with that sponsor on a specific set of shows. So some of the shows are 4 to 6 episodes, some are longer, but the point is that's made the podcast producers really agile in the market to match a specific kind of content to a particular brand. So that's an absolute win from me.
Please everybody join me in giving a huge round of applause to the Olive Magazine podcast. And we should have Janine with us, who'll be able to share her thanks, I imagine, to a sweet...
Hi.
Oh, and a dog, yes! I wondered when it was going to happen.
I've worked in my kitchen for a year, and this has been my companion, constantly scratching at my knee when I'm trying to record, being an absolute pest. This is Marlon. Hi from Marlon. He's going to go now. And he just got on my knee there. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Woof. I'm really thrilled. Thank you. It's been
of course. Your podcast name came up so much during the judges' discussions that it was natural that it should win. But congratulations to you and the entire team.
Thank you. It's been a bit of a mad year, obviously, same with everybody else. So trying to go after sponsorship as well in the midst of all of that is quite hard. But we've actually found this kind of synergy between creating brilliant content and getting really great sponsors. Like this one was sponsored by Neff, who are a fantastic brand. So yeah, it's like a win for everyone. So yeah, thank you so much.
Nice, fantastic. And I'm inventing an award now. You get the Best Publisher Podcast Awards Podcast Pet of the Year as well. Unfortunately, that doesn't come with the trophy, but
I'll accept that.
It's real. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thanks, Chris.
Moving on now to our Best Sport Podcast category. I don't think there's been any big sport news over the last couple of days, but over the past year, sport has provided a lifeline for people who have felt the need for community. So please do give a big round of applause to every single person on this shortlist, because they all deserve to be there. Moving on to a very competitive category, Best Sport Podcast. And your entries are BR Football Ranks from Bleacher Report, To Our Teams, One Street from the Evening Telegraph, DC Thompson Media, ThePinkin.com, Norwich City Podcast from Archant, Deeper Blue Podcast from Deeper Blue, The Bunkered Golf Podcast from Bunkered, DC Thompson, and Kings of Anglia from Archant, Suffolk. I'm going to hand you over to the judge, who'll be able to do a far better job than I ever could explaining why this entry has won.
So this was the standout podcast in the category for me because of the volume of things it had done for the brand. There'd been a complete shift, and podcasts weren't just tagged on to that shift, they were a key part of the strategy. They'd done a massive change to their audience, shifting from a very centralized, specific to an international marketplace. And there was loads of commercial drivers that have really changed the face of what they do, from being just a news and information resource to being able to book a holiday.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner is the Bunkered podcast from DC Thompson. Many congratulations. Amazing. And I think we should just be about to have Michael join us, who'll be able to, I suppose, share his own thanks with the rest of the team. Michael, are you there?
Indeed, yes. Hello there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm absolutely stunned and delighted. So much so I didn't want to tempt fate. So I haven't taken note of anyone I should thank. But look, off the top of my head, before the music starts to play and the lights go out, huge thank you, first of all, to Chris Finn at DC Thompson. We've recently become, or the past couple of years, become part of the DC Thompson family. And we wanted to set up a podcast, didn't know how to do it. And Chris guided us through it every step of the way. So he's been an absolute, I hesitate to use the word rock because it's not a nice, particular term to use, but he has been. Also to everybody at DC Thompson and PSP Media Group, huge thanks are due from me. I don't this much in the podcast. I know that because I edit it out. Also, I should say thank you to Kevin McQuillan, our commercial director, Paul Grant, our managing director, Tom Lovering, our third director, third and most important, some might say. To my co-host, Bryce Ritchie, massive thank you. To all of the guests that we've had on the show up to now, again, thank you. But most importantly, to our listeners, couldn't do it without them. Massive thanks as well. And thank you for this award. And to everybody nominated in this category, I'm stunned and delighted.
You don't need to thank us. It was so well deserved, and the judges' comments reflect that. But thank you so much for attending this evening, and it's a delight to meet you in person and sort of hand the trophy over virtually, if you will. But congratulations. Moving on now to our final content category of the evening, which is Best Technology Podcast. Technology has been ubiquitous over the past couple of years. I think I actually say that in the pre-recorded bit, so probably shouldn't have said it again. But yeah, it's been, God, you only have to look at the quality of entries just to see quite how much emphasis publishers are putting into their technology podcasts, and the quality has been through the roof. Moving on now to Best Technology Podcast, and your entries for 2021 are the IT Pro Podcast from Dennis Publishing, All Things Photonics from Lorien Publishing, In Machines We Trust from the MIT Technology Review, Track Talks from Rail Technology Magazine Cognitive Publishing, Engineering Matters from Reby Media, and the PC Pro Podcast from Dennis Publishing.
The winning podcast delivers highly technical information and solutions, but in a way that means the audience doesn't have to work hard for this knowledge. It's delivered in an entertaining and accessible way. This is a testament to the publisher's objectives, which are to tell amazing stories. Production is very professional, with engaging presenters who bring out the best in their interviewees. The producers have taken on board advice given by last year's Publishing Podcast Awards judges, which was to extend their product offering and to do more with their show notes. Doing this through newsletter expansion and website articles has brought the added benefit of contributing to audience and engagement growth. Aspiring to produce something akin to a popular radio programme, albeit one grounded in quality specialist knowledge, is a valuable aspiration, and the judges were delighted to see that the winning podcast achieved this.
And ladies and gentlemen, your winner is Engineering Matters from Reby Media. Congratulations. And so I'm welcoming back Bernadette. Congratulations, Bernadette, the first returning winner of the evening. How are you?
Delighted. Thank you ever so much.
Good. So what particularly was it that made technology such a, such a focus over the last year, and how have you really taken advantage of that?
So we're all about engineering, and engineering is problem solving. And people that go into engineering want to solve problems, and they generally want to make the world better. So all of the massive challenges that we've got as a society, from climate change, ocean degradation, engineers actually do have the answer. And it's about whether that gets employed. So if we are going to be driving around in electric vehicles powered by wind energy, it's engineers that have created that. So it's not difficult to find amazing technical solutions. And it's what we're all about. The difficult thing is presenting it in a really engaging way, telling a story, but also giving the depth that engineers need. So yeah, it's not difficult. Thank you to all the engineers. It's not difficult to find good engineering stories. So thank you to everybody that's participated in our 100. I think we've done 103 episodes now. So thank you to all the engineers.
Nice. Congratulations. And congratulations on that milestone as well. I know it takes an awful lot of effort to get there. So that's fantastic work. Well done. Congratulations. So we're about to move on to our strategic awards now, which are Best Commercial Strategy, Best Podcast Launch, Podcast Hero of the Year, and ultimately the Publisher Podcast of the Year. Before we do, I just want to confirm something that IT Pro suggested, which is that next year we will include a Publisher Dogcast category for the Best Podcast Dog. You heard that here first. So we're now moving on to our Best Commercial Strategy category. You only have to look at the quality of this to see that, unbound by genre, unbound by sector, there are incredible innovations going on across the entire podcast industry, perhaps more over the past year than ever before. And it has been our great pleasure and privilege to have got a little peek about the commercial strategy behind some of these podcasts. Moving on now to Best Commercial Strategy, rewarding those podcasts that have delivered as much value to the bottom line as they have to their listeners. And your entries are Air Finance Journal Week in Review from Euromoney PLC, Engineering Matters from Reby Media, Public Sector Voices from the Public Sector Executive, The Dirt from Grow Your Own DC Thompson Media, Energy Voice Out Loud, Energy Voice DC Thompson Media, Finger on the Pulse from the National Health Executive, Scran from Laudable and JPI Media, and Track Talk from Rail Technology Magazine.
This podcast is just wonderful. It's one of those podcasts that once you listen to one episode, you just want to continue and then listen to another and then another. But I was looking at this podcast from a commercial perspective, and what they've done here is something even better. They have taken a topic and a focus that was outside their usual areas of interest and turned that into something that is very, very interesting, a very high value, and also made it a commercial success. So this podcast was something that I very much liked.
And so the winner of the Best Commercial Strategy Award goes to Engineering Matters from Reby Media. Please join me in giving them a huge round of applause. And to talk about the commercial considerations that have gone into that, I believe that we should have John with us, who'll be able to give a bit of an insight into exactly what's been happening at Engineering Matters.
Hello. Oh, I can't actually believe it that we like last year we were shortlisted for a bunch of awards and we walked away empty-handed, and this year we came in shortlisted for a bunch of awards, and I think we all thought we were going to be that Oscar nominee that's always nominated and never quite wins, but this is unbelievable. This is our third one today. Okay, I need to do the obligatory thank yous. Bernadette, obviously, who you've all met, but Alex and Ross and Roland and everyone else. We're only 11 people at Reby, but we have Rory, who believed in the project from day one and is the reason we exist. As the judge mentioned, we were all food and drink before, so engineering had nothing to do with anything else in the portfolio, and was our first launch that was purely podcast first. And we only really launched all of the other elements of the brand after the judges' feedback from last year. But our commercial strategy is essentially about forming carefully selected partnerships with companies and finding stories that they have to tell that can help our audience do their job better. So we keep a careful mix of making some money, but not undermining the quality of the storytelling that we're doing. And I'm sure everyone else who's sat out there at the moment, finding a commercial strategy that is successful is a huge stress relief on all of us. I've been a lifelong fan of audio media, and I'm very proud to be making a living out of it and sustaining a team with it. And I just want to congratulate everybody else on the shortlist. I hope that they also have successful business strategies that keep their podcast going for many, many episodes, as Engineering Matters has done. And thanks a lot to Media Voices for recognizing all the hard work that's going on. And fingers crossed we'll be back on the shortlist next year and do this all in person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we're as big a bunch of boosters of the medium as anybody, and we love the fact that people have found a commercial strategy to support their editorial ambitions as well. So many congratulations again. Congratulations on your Leo winning the Oscar for The Revenant moment.
Thank you.
So we're now moving on to our best podcast launch category. This was the single most competitive category of all this year. It attracted almost 40 podcasts. So even just to be on the shortlist itself is a real achievement. But as ever, there can only be one winner. So I'm now going to hand across to one of our sponsors who'll be able to share why they believe it's worth having a big launch, I suppose, is the term for this.
Podcast Radio.
Hi, I'm Jerry Edwards from Podcast Radio. Now, Podcast Radio, we're all about getting your podcast listened to by brand new listeners. In that, we understand all those challenges that come with launching a podcast and getting it noticed amongst the many other, quite literally, millions of other podcasts that are out there. So we were thrilled to be able to sponsor the Best Podcast Launch category at the Podcast Publisher Awards. From us at Podcast Radio and myself, congratulations to all of those who've been shortlisted and to the winner.
Your entries are Author in Your Classroom from Plazoom DC Thompson Media, In Machines We Trust from MIT Technology Review, Stories of Our Times from Wireless Studios, The Times and Sunday Times, The Car Throttle Podcast from Dennis Publishing, The Upgrade from Suitcase Magazine, Finger on the Pulse from the National Health Executive, New Scientist Weekly from New Scientist, Planet Normal from The Telegraph, and The Dirt from Grow Your Own DC Thompson Media.
Thanks and hello again. This was a really tough category to judge as it had over 40 entries initially, so many congratulations to the shortlisted podcasts. Now for the winning podcast, this was actually one of the strongest awards entries we've seen. The podcast fits really well with the parent brand. It makes great use of the magazine content and staff throughout. It's also seen really impressive results since launching, and we're looking forward to seeing it go from strength to strength this year. Back to you, Chris, to announce the winner.
Please give a big hand to the New Scientist Weekly podcast from New Scientist. So to have stood out among that vast array of incredible podcasts is an achievement in and of itself. And I believe we have Rowan with us who'll be able to tell us exactly what was behind their amazing, amazing entry this year.
Hi. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, all good. Wow, that's fantastic. Thanks so much. Yeah, look, as they just said, in the judge just said, we've got so much to draw from the magazine content and from the world of science that, it makes our job easier. It's just so rich. And so it's just been really fun thing to put together every week. So, it's been great to do it. And it's been thrilling to see it take off in popularity as well. So thanks to our producer, Ollie Gilu, who's been with us from the beginning, and our hosts, my co-hosts, Penny Sarche, Valerie Jameson and Tiffany O'Callaghan, and all the guests and all the people who've been on it and really made it, and all the listeners. So thanks very much. And yeah, as you say, we really hope to go from strength to strength with this one. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again. And hopefully we'll see you on the shortlist next year for, many more categories.
Excellent. Yeah, I hope so.
Amazing. Well, we're now moving on to one of the awards that mean the most to us as the founders of the awards. The Podcast Hero of the Year award is something that we decided to include, not because it, particularly delivers benefits back to us. We just want to really celebrate the talents behind the podcasts that are really defining the industry. Last year, Christopher Finn won, and it was an incredibly worthy victor. And I think that the reason why we're so keen to provide this every year is that there's always somebody who's driving forth every industry, really making sure that we're not just resting on our laurels, really pushing the bounds of what can be done with the audio medium. You know, without the face-to-face contact, it's actually very, very difficult to connect with an audience and to build a commercial strategy. And in a lot of cases, to even attract an audience. So the reason why we do the Podcast Hero of the Year award is because we want to celebrate everybody who's trying something new, experimenting. And I think that the sheer quality of the names on this shortlist will really, I suppose, give you confidence that the industry is moving in the right direction as well. So here's your Publisher Podcast Hero of the Year award nominees. Ladies and gentlemen, your nominees for Publisher Podcast Hero of the Year are Velo Metrovic from Reby Media, Laura Muller from Euromoney, Rowan Hooper from New Scientist, Jack Megan Vickers from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime, Flo Rollet-Manis from Suitcase Group, Pierre Bien-Aimé from Digiday Media, Theodora Laludis from The Telegraph, Elsa Cohen from Rail Technology Magazine, and Ollie Gilou, freelance contractor for New Scientist. Now I'm going to hand you across to the recipient of last year's Publisher Podcast Hero of the Year award, Chris Finn, to explain why the judges felt like the winner deserved this award so much.
Even from within a really impressive list of candidates who are shortlisted for Podcast Hero of the Year, this candidate stands out. In part, yes, because they've created a highly compelling roster of podcasts for their company, but more importantly, I think because, as well as that, they've also used their position, their leadership, and kindness to raise others up. Producing high-quality podcast content is something that everyone in this virtual room is doing and has done and will continue to do. But being kind and bringing others along with you on that journey, that's what Hero does.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a huge round of applause to Theodora Laludis from The Telegraph, your Publisher Podcast Awards 21 Podcast Hero of the Year. And she's with us here right now. Congratulations on winning Publisher Podcast Hero of the Year. The judges, well, it wasn't a landslide, but it was fairly unanimous. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you are the kind ones, and the people who put me up for this are kind. I was really, really surprised to even see my name on the shortlist. Yeah, I thought it might be either my mum or my dad who are just about learning what a podcast is. But it wasn't. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled, and what a great shortlist, and what fun awards. Thank you. And thank you to all our brilliant hosts who do the talking on these shows and who are very patient with us when we drag them into the studios in their busy, busy days.
Well, it's an awful lot of work that goes into making it successful. I wondered if you could provide any little nuggets of advice for people who are looking to really sort of start developing their own podcast interests.
I would say if you can't get work elsewhere, do it yourself and start yourself. If you're a really speedy editor, you'll be really useful anywhere. Invite creative and interesting people who are not necessarily household names on your shows, can sometimes be just as, if not more interesting than the big names.
Amazing. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Your trophy is going to be winging its way to you over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Of course, absolutely. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
So we're almost at the very, very end of our award ceremony for the evening. Don't forget that afterwards, we're going to be having a bit of an after party or a debrief or just a little bit of networking and a chat after the fact. So do look out for that link either via email or in the chat after the final award of the night, which is the Publisher Podcast of the Year award. So after reviewing all the entries, we had endless, interminable internal discussions about who should actually win the Publisher Podcast Award of the Year. We had to be vicious with our pruning of the shortlist, and across the entire category, there were only a few points in it between the winner and the rest of the shortlist. Ultimately, it came down to 3 podcasts, any one of which could have won, and so ultimately, myself, Peter, and Esther relied on our judges' comments to help us pick the winner. So this podcast is a marvel. It's in-depth yet accessible. It balances the seriousness of its subject matter with lightness and levity. It's inspiring not just for its core audience, but for the casual listeners as well. It dances between subjects week by week, providing a fascinating look at topics that are shaping our future. We ask all our entrants to provide their best episode, but the truth is that any one of these podcasts episodes could count as its best. We were impressed by its commercial strategy, the value it delivers to the parent brand, delighted by the quality of the products itself, and ultimately we were won over by the clear passion that the team has for their subject matter. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, New Scientist Weekly is your Publisher Podcast Award winner of the year, providing the absolute best in entertainment and information in a concise package that delighted our judges. Congratulations to New Scientist. This is a very, very well-deserved win. So I think we've got Rowan back with us. Congratulations again. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. Thanks so much. I didn't know there was a final award. It's lucky I kept my clothes on. That's amazing. Thanks so much. What an honor to win after, we've seen so many fantastic podcasts throughout this evening. It's extraordinary to win this award. And it is, as I just said before, it's a testament to the richness of the stories out there and the passion that people have for them and all the different subjects we're able to cover. So thank you so much to everyone who's been involved, to all the judges for this award, and to everyone else on the shortlist and everyone else who's been involved tonight as well. So thanks very much.
Of course. Well, absolutely. And congratulations again. Our judges loved it. And like I said, it's been a huge passion project, obviously for yourself and not just for the audiences, but yeah, it's been amazing. And thank you so much for entering as well. It's been, as with all our episodes, it's really provided us with inspiration for ourselves as much as the audience. But congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I just allowed you to record there, but I should have actually feedback to attendee. Okay, there we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of the awards for this year. But please do stick around because I'm about to play a video from my co-hosts, Esther and Peter, which will say some much needed thanks, and also provide a bit of a sneak peek about what we've got planned for next year. It's very exciting. Please do also check the chat for the link to our after party. It should also have gone to your email, but hopefully I'll see you again in a couple of minutes in the after party. For the moment, please do stick around because we want to share with you our plans for next year.
Once again, we'd like to thank our brilliant sponsors. Without them, tonight probably wouldn't have happened. So thanks Audion, Podcast Radio, Pod Install, and Audrey. If you want to find out more about what these lovely people do, please take a look at our sponsors page on publisherpodcastawards.com. Just to let you know, we're planning season 2 of our Lessons series, where I'll speak to as many of tonight's winners as I can and share what they tell me about making award-winning podcasts. You can listen to season 1 right now on voices.media. Remember to listen to the Media Voices podcast every week. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and pretty much anywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Or go to voices.media and you'll find everything you need, including a wee form to sign up for our daily Media Roundup newsletter. The 4 most important stories every day. Tell your friends and family, even strangers you meet in the street, about what we do, because word of mouth is huge for us. Oh, one final thank you to Nikki Simpson, who stepped in to babysit me and Chris while Esther was off having an actual baby. Thank you so much, Nikki. You are brilliant as always.
Thank you, and congratulations again to all the shortlisted podcasts and of course to the winners. Now, before we wrap up, we are really excited to announce that in spring 2022, COVID permitting, we will be launching the first ever Publisher Podcast Summit in London. The plan is to have that during the day before having next year's The Awards ceremony in the evening. So we're going to be putting together a packed day where you can learn from the best in the industry on everything from how to launch a podcast to what it takes to put together a sustainable commercial strategy, and we hope to hear from some of this year's winners as well. To keep up to date with that, make sure you're registered to get emails from us. There's a form on the website to get added to the mailing list. And don't worry, we won't share your email address with anybody else, and we promise not to email you too often either. So if you would like to speak, sponsor, judge, or otherwise be involved in 2022 Summit or Awards, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. You can email team@publisherpodcastawards.com. Now I will hand back to Chris again to take us out. Have a great evening or afternoon wherever you are, and congratulations again.
And before we end, I'd like to give a huge thanks to my co-hosts, Esther and Peter, as well as Nikki, for making this so easy. It was obviously a challenge to deliver awards virtually, but the fact that you've all been great guests and the fact that they were great co-hosts has made it so much calmer, so much easier. And of course, I do want to thank everybody who took the time to enter the awards in the first place. It was hard even to long list these awards, let alone shortlist them. And so the fact is that I'm more confident now about the future of podcasting than I have ever been. The last year has been terrible for many reasons, but the fact is that podcasting has come out of this stronger than ever, and publishers are the ones who are going to take the most advantage of the newfound strength. So if you do want to stick around, the link to the after party is now in the chat or in the email. And yeah, well, thank you so much for coming to the Publisher Podcast Awards 21. We'll see you next year when it's going to be even bigger and better than ever. And until next year, I do just want to, I guess, give the most encouragement I possibly can for you to continue creating podcasts. It has been a joy to judge this year. Everything has been fantastic, and I honestly can't wait to see what comes next year. But for now, thank you so much from the team at Media Voices. Thank you so much to the team at the Publisher Podcast Awards, and hopefully I'll see some of you in the after party.